Okay, well, actually, I was actually very, very happy with the pick. I like the fact that he's a young man. I like the fact of how he grew up, his whole background, how he got to where he is. I think it's a good example for young people today, which is very hard these days to find good examples in America. Idols, people to look up to and say, I can do that too, I can make it too.
Despite JD Vance having the personality of a wet paper towel and actively dragging down Trump's campaign with crucial voting blocks, the Maga base has shown that they're willing to accept anyone into the fold as long as they bend the knee.
He's also somebody who called Donald Trump an American Hitler.
I did not hear that, but that's what everyone keeps repeating. And okay, let's just say, okay, he might have. If he did, he did.
He wrote, again, back in 2016, but I'm not surprised by Trump's rise, and I think the entire party has only itself to blame. We are, whether we like it or not, the party of lower income, lower education white people, and I have been saying for a long time that we need to offer those people something, and hell, maybe even expand our appeal to working class black people in the process. Woo, wow, imagine that. He continues to say, or a demagogue would, we are now at that point. Trump is the fruit of the party's collective neglect. I go back and forth between thinking Trump is a cynical person like a-hole, like Nixon, who wouldn't be that bad and might even prove useful, or that he's America's Hitler. How's that for discouraging?
Yeah, well, how's that for a sleazy liar? And I don't mean that text, that's where he's being honest.
When you're going up for nominations and this, that, and the other, it gets contentious. People say really ugly things and then they take it back and then they get to know the person better.
If MAGA would offer this much charitability and grace to unhoused people, addicts, prisoners, undocumented immigrants, and every other marginalized group they discriminate against, our country would be infinitely better off than it is now.
What is it about JD Vance that you think makes him a good pick?
I think JD encapsulates the MAGA agenda and articulates the vision of the America First movement, particularly his views on the economy and immigration and other issues that are central to the Republican Party today. He articulates our philosophy on these better than about any candidate, including potentially President Trump, because he's very eloquent.
The delegate perfectly explained why we, unfortunately, have to take Vance seriously and view him for the threat that he is. JD Vance is far more competent in working behind the scenes to achieve the Republican Party's objectives, and giving him this much political clout at such a young age signals that he'll likely be Trump's successor to carry on the MAGA mindset for future generations, which could easily end up being the most damaging effect on his political career if things work out in his favor.
Do you think that his selection has a little bit of danger because of some of the things he's said about Donald Trump in the past, particularly called him an American Hitler, things like that?
I don't. I think he's obviously been well vetted by a very capable team that Donald Trump surrounded himself with. And like many politicians who initially weren't potentially the warmest to the president, he obviously saw the error of his ways and has come around and is maybe the most vocal supporter of the president in the United States Congress.
People like to say he's a dictator or wants to be a dictator. I think he truly has the heart and soul of America and the American people at heart. And I really believe he would step aside, and that's probably why he chose JD. He's a young man. He can be VP for 4 years and go on for another 8.
He has said some unflattering things about the former president. He's called him America's Hitler. Yeah. He has only been in the Senate for a minute. What about him versus some of the other selections is appealing to you?
Yeah. So as far as he said some really nasty things about Trump. He was clearly a never Trumper. But I think part of the problem is that Trump has been demonized so much, and people only take that demonization that they get from the media, and the Democrats. They don't really look into the background until they actually do their own investigation. And I think that's what's happened, is that more and more people have recognized this is a lot of fake news or bias. And then as they look into him, they realize that is not who Donald Trump is.
Yes, of course, the Yale law graduate was just fooled and duped by the fake news coverage of Trump in 2016 and couldn't have been smart enough to realize that the only path left to get to the top of the Republican Party was through Trump and sucking up to him and his voter base. JD Vance is not some innocent man who was led astray and found the light in Trump's policies, but a politically savvy slimeball who seized an opportunity to snatch as much power as possible. Now that we've heard how some members of the base feel, let's see how some other more powerful members of MAGA feel about a potential Vice President, JD Vance.
Hey, Vivek, can you tell me just a little bit about JD Vance and why you think it's a good pick?
I think he's going to be a great vice president. I've known him for a long time. Yeah. We were classmates in law school. We grew up in similar areas of Southwest Ohio. I think he is going to be a guy he lived the American dream story, and I think it's going to inspire a lot of Americans.
And some of the things he said about the former president?
I think it's an opportunity to say, you know what, you may not have voted for him 2016. Here's why I'm come around. Why don't you come around too? So I think it could be an asset.
Can you tell me a little bit about JD Vance and why you like the pick?
I think just his background, he's going to open up the area even for a lot more for people who hadn't looked at for Republican. You look at his background, serving the Marines, just his upbringing, the challenge a lot of families have when it comes to drugs and others. I think he has a very compelling story.
Do you see how people might be given pause by some of the things he said about him in the past, or does that go away when a ticket starts?
Look, I think it goes away a long time. There's going to be a lot of people that maybe didn't vote or support President Trump in 2016 that really want to support him now, and it's a way to open up that everybody's welcome to come by.
When you're saying you're a threat to our democracy, it's putting kind of that you're an external threat that's trying to threaten the very safety of our nation, and so I think that makes it more of a national security sense. Whereas we just want, if Joe Biden's in office, they're going to be going after their political opponents, trying to harass them with the IRS, all these new agents they've hired. Gas prices are going to continue going up. Energy prices are going to continue going up. Housing prices will continue going up. We're going to live in a renter society. When we say the Democrats are going to destroy our country, that's what we're saying. They're going to continue to hurt us in the pocketbook. Whereas when I think Democrats say it, they're saying, no, this guy's literally Hitler. We should take him out.
Although it was JD Vance who said that he was the American Hitler, that Donald Trump was the American Hitler.
You know what? That's the one thing I love about Donald Trump. He's really good at changing people's minds.
JD Vance, what have you seen in him as a colleague? And again, the concerns. He called Donald Trump at one time an American Hitler. I mean, how do you run away from that, and how do you evolve from that?
You grow, and you actually meet somebody, and you realize that, I've said this in the past, that if you spend a little bit of time with Donald Trump, you cannot not like him. He's incredibly gracious. He's got a great sense of humor. He's obviously serious about trying to save this country because he loves this country. He dearly loves this country. So JD Vance finally gets to meet him, realizes those exact same things, so his opinion changes. But JD Vance is a person of true integrity, intelligence, has a background that I think is perfect for the times, particularly the Republican Party, pretty well taking over representing working men and women of America. The men and women that the other side has forgotten. So I think it's a great pick.
I mean, can you elaborate on that just a little? Because you've spent time with him, but he's only been in the Senate for a minute compared to Senator Johnson, for example. In what ways have you seen that evolve?
Well, we spend, Tuesday lunch, Wednesday lunch, Thursday lunch. And that's where we get together, where we discuss issues. And JD Vance has always been intelligent and articulate with what he says. Chooses the word wisely, doesn't always speak, but when he does, it's something worth listening to. And I value that in people. So again, I just know him. He's very intelligent. I hate to lose him. President Trump, what are you doing? You're taking one of the better ones. So, but it's a great pick.
Congressman, just a quick word on JD Vance and what you think of him.
Awesome pick. Got to run. Awesome pick, though. I'm happy for JD.
Yeah. And what are you happiest about? What is so good as a pick for vice president?
You got to watch that mic. But it's going to show America that our party is young, vibrant, and we're ready to make sure we lead our country.
It is the weirdest thing to me. Democrats say that it is racist to believe, well, they say it's racist to do anything. I had a Diet Mountain Dew yesterday and one today. I'm sure they're going to call that racist too, but it's good. I love you guys. But
Nothing says young and vibrant quite like bombing this badly at your own campaign rally. But this is what we're going to have to deal with if the Dems don't get it in gear and effectively message against the horrors of a Trump-Vance presidency and what it will bring. If you can and are willing, please become a paid member here at TYT Sports. And or go to tyt.com/join. In addition, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate it. Have a great day.